Thank you for joining today's online travel presentation, where we will talk about the best of Italy. My name is Lynn, and I am pleased to be your moderator for this presentation. We understand that now is not an easy time to travel, but it is the perfect time to start researching destinations and planning your next trip. So thank you for being here. Before we begin, I'd like to take care of 2 bits of housekeeping. First, we will hold all questions until the end. If you have questions during the presentation, please type them in the question box in the GoToWebinar toolbar, and we will cover them at the end of the webinar. And last, there will be 2 polling questions during the presentation, and we encourage you to participate. So let's get started. As I mentioned, I am Lynn, and I'll be your moderator, and I am pleased to introduce our presenter, Frank, one of our knowledgeable rail specialists. So now that you know a little bit about us, we'd like to get to know a little bit more about you in our first polling question, which is, have you ever vacationed in Italy? So we'll keep this poll open for about 30 seconds to let you have a chance to answer. All right, and looks like just about everyone has had a chance to lodge their vote, so I will be closing this. And it looks as though just about 20% have visited Italy. So you're in the right place to learn a little bit more about this destination. But before we talk about Italy's trains and fantastic destinations, I want to tell you a little bit about us. Vacations by Rail is the leading rail vacations company in the United States and the trusted authority on rail. We offer the largest collection of vacations to destinations around the globe, and the cornerstone of each is a rail journey aboard at least one of the world's iconic trains. We are a member of the National Tour Association, American Bus Association, and we are also AARP's preferred rail provider. And Vacations by Rail is a great rail journeys company backed by more than 45 years of experience in the specialty of global rail tours. And in addition to unmatched itineraries, we offer best-in-class customer care from your first call or email to your return home from your trip. Now, whether you're connecting popular cities like Venice, Florence, and Rome, or traveling the length of the country, doing it by train is a memorable experience. Europe's rail network is efficient. You can step aboard a train, sit back, and leave the driving to someone else. Travel like a local as you're transported between destinations with ease. Simply enjoy the scenery and the company of your travel companions during transit. The train will take you from city center to city center with ease. Now, before I turn this over to Frank, I want to set the tone with some interesting facts about Italy. Italy is home to the most UNESCO World Heritage Sites in all the world. Visitors toss roughly 3,000 euros of loose change into the Trevi Fountain each day, and legend says it will guarantee your return to Rome when you do so. So do you know that that 3,000 euros amounts to $1,285,530 US dollars annually? The money is collected and donated to a local charity. Europe's only active volcanoes are in Italy. They are Mount Etna, Mount Stromboli, and Mount Vesuvius. There are more than 1,500 lakes in Italy, and Frank will be talking about one particularly scenic one in a bit. Can you guess which one it is? And the world's smallest country is found within Italy. That's Vatican City, a mini city-state located within Rome. Now I'm happy to introduce Frank, who will tell you all about some of the great rail experiences, historic destinations, and authentic experiences as you discover the best of Italy by rail.
Hi, my name is Frank, and I've been to Italy many, many times. I'm of Italian heritage, so Italy holds a very special place in my heart. This train right here is the Frecciarossa. This is run by Trenitalia, which is the national rail service. It's a high-speed train, zips you from city to city in like an hour. It's a wonderful, amazing train. And it's typical of Europe. Europe's intricate rail system makes connecting destinations far easier than even a decade ago. And I rode the slow trains 25 years ago, 26 years ago when I went to Italy for the first time. So quite an improvement. Traveling to and through Italy from neighboring destinations or travel throughout the country, always from city center to city center. This is a Trenitalia train, as I mentioned. There's also a private operator that runs on the state tracks there called NTV Italo, also a wonderful high-speed rail company, and they serve all of Italy's popular cities. International rail connections range from the high-speed TGV, which is the French high-speed train, which connects Paris to Turin or Milan, and Eurocity routes that connect Italy with neighboring Switzerland, Germany, and Austria. I've taken all of these trains. In fact, the last time I went to Italy, I flew in and out of Zurich, and the train station is right under Zurich Airport. And I was at the shores of Lake Como with an hour and a half of landing in Zurich. So the trains are quite marvelous. So you experience the wonder of Italy by train, and you enjoy the country's top destinations, and you really fall in love with the Italian culture. And the trains are quite an accomplishment, especially in Italy. And we're going to get into that as we go into our little presentation here. Here are pictures of some of the trains. The train on the top, that's one of the Trenitalia trains. That's a slower train. There's a scenic train over there in the lower left. That's on the lower right is the train that links the Cinque Terre. So that was quite an engineering feat. They had to carve through mountains. It was quite a wonder in its time when that was built in the 20s there. And then we go to our first tour here. And this is an amazing overview pretty much of the entire country. It hit all the big sites. It's called Top to Toe of Italy, and this is an escorted trip. So let's look at the overview here. It is 15 days escorted, as I mentioned, from 46.95. It begins in Venice, ends in Taormina. For that, you would then fly out of Naples. Naples is the nearest airport to Taormina. And from its ancient classical sites to its hillside villages and dramatic coastline, Italy offers something really for all visitors. This incredible adventure. We offer the length of the country, taking in sites such as Venice, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, Pompeii, and lesser known places like Siena. Siena is astounding, probably the best medieval square in all of Europe. All right. So in the next slide, here's the highlights here. You get scenic rail excursion aboard the Circumvesuviana train, or the Etna train. As the name implies, this circumnavigates Mount Etna in and out of Naples there. You get city tours of Venice, Florence, Siena, Rome, and Taormina. You get excursion to Pisa, including the famous Leaning Tower. You get a guided tour of Pompeii. You go to Sorrento with the limoncello tasting. Limoncello, I'll go more into that later. Excursions to Lucca, which is, and this, nothing looks like it in the world. It's called the Towered City. It's a really beautiful place. And plus the Amalfi Coast, the very famous Amalfi Coast. And of course, you do go to Pompeii and an excursion to Mount Etna. So let's look at some images from this. On the top left, that's the Amalfi Coast. Of course, next to that, to the right of that is, of course, Venice. That's the canal, the Grand Canal there, ending in the lagoon. There's the Lido off in the distance. Upper right, that's Rome, of course. There's the enormous Victor Emmanuel monument. You can't miss that anywhere. There's Pompeii right below it. And then, of course, there's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. One word about that, one must duck into the cathedral there. That's one of the rare Romanesque cathedrals in Italy, because most cathedrals are of the Gothic period or the Renaissance period. That is an old church, and it's really beautiful on the inside. The bell tower is much newer. That came hundreds and hundreds of years later, and it started to lean as soon as they were building it. And they tried to fudge it by building it crooked so it looks straight, but it didn't work. On the day you are there, the tower may or may not be open for visitors to walk up on, just tour, but you will get a tour of the tower there. And then, of course, there's Florence. That's the Duomo. And then, of course, Pompeii in the lower right-hand corner. Those are the ruins of Pompeii. All right, moving on. By the way, this tour I just say that's this tour really, in the amount of time you have, 15 days, it fits in almost every major site you need to see in Italy and some lesser known sites. So it really is a beautiful overview, especially if you've never been. This is a crash course essentially, and it's fully escorted, and you really get to see some amazing sites. And Italy really is different from the north to the south, and you'll see that. And it's nice that Sicily is included, because Sicily is really still undiscovered. It's not as touristy as the country of Italy. It's part of Italy, but it's not as touristy as, you know, the big cities like Florence and Rome. Sicily is still kind of an undiscovered gem, and you do get to see it. So our next trip is Rome, Sorrento, and the Amalfi Coast. This tour takes in southern Italy's coastline, which is very famous, very scenic. Let's take a look at the overview here. Begins and ends in London. Now, of course, if you don't wish to end in London, North American passengers can fly out of Naples Airport at the end here. The Amalfi Coast and its islands make up one of Europe's most visually stunning regions. You start in Rome, and then you continue downward to Sorrento and visit the magnificent Capri and the lost city of Pompeii. This 11-day escorted tour travels round trip from London. You can do that, but like I said, if you wish to end in Naples, you get end in Naples. But you get high-speed travel aboard the trains in Italy, as well as the Eurostar and TGV trains, TGV as the French say, and then local trains throughout Italy. Let's look at some of the highlights here. As I mentioned, you get high-speed rail travel aboard the Eurostar and the Thalys train. You get a scenic excursion aboard the Campania Express. There's tours of Rome and Pompeii, an Amalfi Coast boat excursion to Positano and Amalfi. You get to see Herculaneum. Herculaneum is the twin of Pompeii, and it was destroyed on that fateful day along with Pompeii, and it's less visited. So it's I actually prefer Herculaneum because it's much more atmospheric, and there's just as much ancient splendor in Herculaneum. But you do get to see both. And then you go to Capri. Capri is one of the most beautiful spots on earth. I love Capri. I've been there twice. It's just great. It's a small, there's only 2 towns on the island, so everyone knows each other. It's a rich town, but a friendly town. You'll see well-dressed people walking the streets after dinner, talking to each other, arguing with each other, kissing each other. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. So let's look at some pictures here. Now, there's Pompeii in the upper left, of course. There's Sorrento next to that on the right. And there's Rome down there, same picture. There's the Victor Emmanuel Monument. And then there's the Amalfi Coast there. Let's move on to our next escorted product here. Now, this is the lake that Lynn mentioned. It's Lake Garda. It is the probably more beautiful but lesser known sister of Lake Como. This tour takes you to one of Italy's most scenic lakes. It's a tranquil retreat, really. Sirmione is located on the southern end of Lake Garda, where the lakefront is almost sea-like, and inviting beaches line the shores on wide expanses of water. It's situated on a peninsula that juts into the lake. It's one of Lake Garda's most peaceful towns, and as you can see, visually stunning. All right, let's look at an overview of the vacation here. As I mentioned, it is escorted. It's 10 days. Begins and ends in London. You get, of course, with this, also the Eurostar, the high-speed Eurostar train, the TGV trains, and rail travel aboard Italy's local network. So this town, Sirmione, it's known as the Pearl of the Lake. It's a very relaxing retreat, and it really is the big highlight of the tour. Let's go to the highlights here. Speaking of highlights, I mentioned the Eurostar. You do go to Verona, which is beautiful. I went for the first time to Verona last year, and it's just lovely. That's the home, of course, of the famed Romeo and Juliet, supposedly. That's where it takes place. You go to Valpolicella, and you get a wine tasting. Malcenzane excursion, which is a beautiful town, and of course You get, as you can see, Venice guided tour. So let's look at some images from this. Okay, there's Sirmione at the top. That's on Lake Garda, of course. There's Malcenzane in the middle there. There's Verona, upper right. And then below that, there's Venice, of course, and St. Mark's Square underwater, which often occurs. There, of course, again, is a shot of the lagoon there. And then that's Grotto de Catullo. You did get a tour of that. And then above that is Scaligeri Castle. This is a great trip. This is really focuses a lot on, this is a little more of a relaxed trip. It's fully escorted, but this will give you a little more peaceful time. A lot of peaceful activities. Bring your blood pressure down and see some amazing sights on this trip. The next trip is an independent one. This is not escorted, but it's called Taste of Italy. It spotlights, obviously, judging by the name of the trip, culinary activities, as well as cultural activities. And it basically centers around two of Italy's most famous cities, Rome and Florence. Now, here's an overview of the vacation. As I mentioned, it's independent. It's 7 days. It begins in Rome and ends in Florence. You take a bite out of the culture, and you get a lot of culinary offerings in two of these cities. So let's go to the highlights here. You get rail travel aboard the National Rail Service of Italy, Trenitalia, a market visit, and a cooking lesson in Rome. You get a walking tour of Florence and a Tuscan countryside tour, which includes lunch at a historical farmhouse and a wine tasting. So you will go to someone's grand home and they will serve you a beautiful lunch and get a nice local experience there. Let's look at some images from the trip here. That, of course, again, is the Duomo in Florence. That's the Tuscan countryside. So on the right, very famous, typical image of the Tuscan countryside. Below that is Rome, the famed Spanish Steps and the Colosseum, of course. There's the Ponte Vecchio in Florence, that famous bridge. And then finally, the image in the lower left, that is Rome at dusk. Rome is a beautiful city. You do get free time on this because it's not escorted. Certainly, when you're in Florence, I would recommend in your free time to go to the Oltre Arno, which is the other side of the river Arno, which is where most local Florentines live. Suddenly the tourists disappear, and you'll have there's amazing restaurants on the Oltre Arno that you could find, and that you get a more local experience. You get off the touristy merry-go-round if you do the Oltre Arno. Same thing with Rome. If you go to like Trastevere, which is across the river there, the Tiber River, that neighborhood is just beautiful. It's so atmospheric. Locals live there. It is just a beautiful, you must go. You must get off around, the Vatican City and all the, I mean, see it, yes, of course, but on this, you will have free time and cross that river and meet some local Romans, because most Romans do live on the other side of the river. And Trastevere is one of my favorite parts of Rome. So this is more for the independent traveler. Everything is set up for you. You have your train tickets, you have your local guided tours, so you will meet local, very enthusiastic guides, 1 year in each city, and then you have time to do your own thing, which I highly recommend. And any rail specialist here at Vacations by Rail can recommend things just as I did. We're all very opinionated. We've all been to these places. I've been to Italy 6 times, and I still discover something new every time I go. And again, we could always customize this. And if you want to stay a little longer in one of these cities, we could do it. That's the great thing about an independent trip here. So let's talk about customizing. Let's talk about upgrades here. Independent vacations, such as the one I just spoke of, can enhance your experience with upgrades. You can add additional city tours, extra nights, as I mentioned, room upgrades, even private transfers to and from airports or to and from wherever. This could be customized, upgraded, and then on a escorted product, upgrades are available as well, usually at the hotels. We could get you, if you wanted a suite or something like that instead of just a regular room, we could book that. And also, since a lot of these tours do go in and out of London, I would recommend a pre and post night hotel in London because the departure is early on the first day and you get back in the afternoon on the last day. You don't want to be rushing to the airport. So we do have our preferred hotels that we use around St. Pancras Station in London, and a rail specialist here could arrange all of that and advise you. Okay. All right, so I think I'm going to hand it back to Lynn for the time being. Hi, Lynn.
Fantastic. Thanks, Frank. That was really fun to listen to all of your experiences and insights into Italy and some of your favorite destinations. And so now I'm going to turn it back to our attendees and ask what destinations in Italy appeal to you. So this is a free form question. So go ahead and type in your answer in the GoToWebinar question box, and we'll start to watch those answers come in. We'll leave this open for about 30 seconds. All right, we're seeing some nice cities come on in, Frank. So I'm going to ask that everyone wrap up their answers to this particular polling question. It looks like we're seeing a lot of destinations are appealing to our attendees, Frank, but it looks like Rome is the leader, which very understandable, very historic city. But we have some Tuscany in there, which, people might be interested in the culinary and the wine. I know I am. It's one of my favorite areas of Italy. Now, if you want to learn more about our Italy rail vacations or other itineraries to destinations around the globe, you can flip through any of our brochures online or download one to review at leisure. You can do so by visiting www.vacationsbyrail.com. So we do have some questions here. And so I wanted to see, Frank, if you have time for a couple.
Of course.
Okay, great. Our first one is, can I customize an escorted tour?
Well, I kind of touched on that already. There are upgrades available at hotels, and you can do pre and post nights, but because it's escorted and you're in a group, you are kind of tied to the itinerary. You can't stray from the group there. You do get free time every day, so you will have time to go off and do your own thing. And if you wanted to plan something when you have that free time, we could see if we could make that happen for you. Maybe get a local tour or something like that. So yeah, I mean, during those moments of free time, we certainly could put something in there. We don't want to overload your trip, with too many things to do, but if you wanted to, we certainly could. The independent one, the last one I mentioned, that thing is completely customizable. You could do like 5 more nights in Florence, say, or if you wanted to go to and spend a few nights in Siena or Lucca or somewhere like that, we can do that. Because it is an independent tour, you're not in a group, that is fully customizable. But escorted, you are in the group, so you do have to stay in the group. The only moments of free time you get, we can arrange for something for you, but I wouldn't recommend it because these itineraries can be I don't want to make it too busy because you want that free time. You want to relax. You want to walk the streets. You want to go into this place or that place without the group there. But if you insist, yes, we can do some customization on an escorted product.
Well, Frank, that's a great lead into another question we have. For our escorted tours, how much free time is available to explore on your own?
Well, I mean, in every destination, almost every day, there are moments of free time. It's usually, siesta time. It's usually the afternoon is yours free. And you could either relax your hotel or just do your own thing. There's always a few hours, at least like 4 hours a day where you have time to yourself to do your own thing and see something that maybe not be included on the tour. Your tour director is there to assist you in such things as simple as making a reservation or giving directions or recommendations. That's what the tour director is there for. He or she is there at your disposal, so use that option there. Yeah, I mean, we obviously this is not a race. We want this to be a nice leisurely pace, so we always put a few hours of free time in there every day on our escort product.
Fantastic. We have time for one more question, and I think this is a great one. Is baggage handling included on our escorted tours?
Well, it gets tricky, especially where trains are involved. In these large European steel and glass stations, um, uh, luggage handling is really not possible. There are, the days of the red caps and porters are no more. So when you are getting off the train or getting on the train and leaving the station, going into the station, you will have to handle your own luggage. Now, where a motor coach is involved, your luggage will be handled. But when you're getting on and off conveyances that are there for public use, like these trains, um, you have to handle your own luggage. So I always pack light because and most of the time you end up leaving with more things than you came with because you're buying things while you're there and your suitcase gets fuller and fuller as the trip goes. So I always recommend people to pack smart, which means pack light.
All right. Thanks, Frank. If you have a question that was not answered, one of our rail specialists will receive your question after this presentation, and they will be reaching out to you directly to make sure that it is answered and to see if you have any others that they can help you with. So to book a rail vacation with Vacations by Rail, any of our rail specialists would love to speak with you. They can be reached toll free at 877-929-7245. You can also book online at vacationsbyrail.com. Regardless of how you contact us, the rail specialist who services your first call or electronic transaction is the one who will be dedicated to you until you return home from your trip. So thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate your interest in Italy rail vacations.
Yes, thank
Have
you
a,
all. And thank you, Lynn.
have a great day. Bye-bye.